representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Hey, it feels incredible.
FOF Live, presented by Berger and Hicks. Thank you for joining us once again, just 2 weeks into the season. But as we do for every single series that the Marlins put us through, we do these shows discussing where the team is at and hearing from all you guys as well in our live chats. We are simulcast on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. So please weigh in throughout the show. We'll bring that stuff up and entwine it into our conversation. I am Eli Sussman, Nick Tarak on my left, Alex Carver below me, and our special guest this time, a returning guest, Ryan Schlesinger, our youngest panelist that we have pretty consistently throughout the year, but we love his takes, and he has been watching this stuff as closely as we have, so thanks for coming on, Ryan. We've got to unmute you.
My bad.
There we go.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on tonight. Looking forward to this series.
Of course. Well, before we go into that, we need to reflect on the last series, which by Marlins standards actually wasn't all that embarrassing. Maybe that first game was. I was in attendance for the first game of that. My dad enjoyed it. He's a Yankees fan. But overall, that was a 2-hour ass whooping to open it up. Then the last two games, really competitive ones that kind of went down to the wire. The Marlins lose 2 out of 3 to the Yankees in the Bronx. They salvaged that series finale. And Ryan had the script to this one when we did our predictions, as I'll show in a moment. Got 2 out of 3 and Juan Soto as the MVP. So anything about that, Ryan, that surprised you about this series? Because in the big picture, you seem to know what was coming here.
I mean, my original prediction was that the Marlins would win Game 1 with Luzardo on the mound. I felt like he was due for a really good start after 2 good but not great starts to start off the season. And he had the second worst start of his career. And the other start that was slightly worse was also against the Yankees last year. So, yeah, that the offense was completely silent throughout the first 2 games, just 2 runs combined. And then they scored a bit in that third game, and surprisingly, with Ryan Weathers on the mound against the red-hot Marcus Stroman at the time, the Marlins stole the third game of the series. So other than the way that the games that we won, or the game that we won, played out, nothing really surprised me. I expected Soto to hit pretty well off Marlins pitching, and yeah.
Well, it was a good transition because I know Nick wanted to go in on Ryan Weathers a little bit more. 5 scoreless innings, not the prettiest work from him. I think only 3 strikeouts, and there was quite a bit of traffic in there. But all things considered, against this Yankees lineup, when you keep them off the scoreboard as deep as you can, it's pretty impressive. And I know you wanted me to dive into this final at bat that he had, Nick, him and Juan Soto. Third matchup between them, and Weathers kind of coming out on top at the end.
Yeah, I think it was just a good at bat in general by Weathers. He had the first 2 pitches were great. Got him just absolutely whiffing on that second one. The second pitch was probably one of his best pitches of the game, just a changeup that got totally just swinging and missing. The first one was probably his best sweeper of the game. Also got him really out in front, or just taking that first pitch, got him to kind of back off the plate, which was a great sweeper in that at bat. Then Soto, I mean, took 2 pretty decent pitches, which it's Juan Soto. He's got a fantastic eye. And then he kind of missed a fastball, but got Soto to fly out, which, I mean, a win's a win. And eventually, it was a deep hit, deep fly ball, but got him to fly out. It was just one of his better at-bats of the game. I think just how he started the at-bat was really good and was able in the end to finish it, at least. Soto hit him good, but I think he just had a really good at bat that game. But I think in general, I was looking at Weathers throughout the game. His sweeper, that one sweeper versus Soto was good, but other than that, it wasn't really too good. I think his sinker out of his secondary pitches was relatively better than the other ones because he used his fastball the majority of the game. But the sinker was decent in that game. He got let off a hit to Rizzo on the sinker. Soto had one too, but those are good hitters, good lefty hitters. But I think he had a really good game though.
Yeah. Anything else, Carver, about this series that you want to touch on before we turn the page?
Too many damn walks. Pretty much it. I mean, so many walks. And when you do that against the Yankees, they're going to make you pay. So that Weathers game, that strike zone was massive the entire game on both sides. And Weathers still gives up 5 walks and then more from the bullpen. Can't happen. That's the uncertainty with this team is that the pitching is not very good in the Department of Control and Command. And that goes for everybody in the rotation and some guys in the bullpen as well. So, like I said, when you give up that many walks to what is supposed to be a very, very good team, yeah, I think it was an encouraging start, but definitely not perfect. So, and again, huge strike zone. So with an expanded strike zone, you still walk that many guys. I think that's pretty damn concerning. So not to play Debbie Downer or anything like that, but so many walks and it's just not gonna play against a good team.
Not just the starters, but the bullpen too. With Tanner Scott in that, he made that win pretty dicey. Walked 3 guys, including a couple in the 9th inning, to eventually load the bases for Judge. Like put them in a situation where they could have actually lost that game on one swing. That was what was so special about Tanner Scott last year, where he seemingly turned that corner from going to that awful control guy to one that was perfectly league average at that, and that allowed his amazing stuff to take him to another level. Going back to spring training, like he has been all over the place, and unfortunately that has translated into the regular season. We're only a couple weeks into it. I think he's only pitched how many times? 5 times total. He's only allowed 1 earned run, but Tanner Scott has walked 9 guys in 5 2/3 innings. 9 in 5 2/3. Where are you, Ryan, in your trust level in Tanner Scott as the closer right now for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll start to settle in a little bit as the season moves along, so I'm not completely worried. But his velocity has been down a bit, and the control issues are obviously there. So my biggest worry going into the season after spring training and through the first few games have just been, what if Tanner Scott is more like his 2022 self with the, I believe, first percentile walk rate than his 2023 self, where he cut it in half and he was league average in terms of walks. Yeah. So that's really all I have to say about Scott, but I still kind of trust him in the closer role, but not as much as I did down the stretch last year.
Right. I'm kind of in the same boat as you as we just take a peek at the prediction time results from last series. It was a lot of people had the script for this one. We had 4 perfect ones, including from our staff, Louis Adio Weiss, but Ryan as well on this. That name right below mine, Doug Sussman, that's my dad. He now has just as many points this year as I do at predicting this stuff, even though he does not follow the Marlins whatsoever. So that is a little bit embarrassing right there. Anybody can, it's the staff, our stream guests, and as well as our super subs can play along with us every single series. So for anybody out there, a shameless plug, if you're not already signed up, fishonfirst.com/subscriptions, and then you can join us, keep track of that all season long, and compete with us, because I am once again off to a relatively slow start in this department right here. But looking at the we'll get to just some 2 weeks into the season. I wanted to hear some of your general takeaways. I think all of you guys follow other teams aside from the Marlins, just the sport in general. As we take a big look at this, it is, I think a lot of us are surprised that the Marlins are the worst team in baseball in terms of the record, in terms of all that stuff, that it's been this awful. But outside of that, are there any other particular teams or storylines that have really caught your attention? Go to you, Nick.
I think the Royals are a big surprise with how they've been doing and how they whooped the Astros, which it's going to happen again. But that the Astros have a bad start to the year. Like they're sitting at 4-10. They're the worst in the West. But then we're going to look up at the end of the year and go, oh, the Astros are in the ALCS. So I'm not really worried about that. But I think that's been one of the big surprises. The Astros doing this bad, and then Kansas City really doing good, which I really wasn't expecting. I know Bobby Witt's having a really good start to the year, which is obviously a huge benefit to them. But I would say I think that one is my biggest like wow. And Pittsburgh is also having a solid start to the year, but we know what they did last year. They did really good last year, then slowed way down. So yeah, definitely the Royals are a fun one for me. And I think the Yankees, I follow them closely too. I think they've been doing really good. We just saw what they can do. They're going to be a really good team this year with the new additions.
Including Cody Poteet. For people that didn't see Cody Poteet, the former Marlins prospect and big leaguer, he's going to make his return to the big leagues tomorrow in a doubleheader. He hadn't pitched since like blowing out his elbow almost 2 years ago. They have made it. They're in first place even without Cody Poteet to this point. So that just shows you how stacked they are, all things considered. I was going to go kind of in the same direction too with both the Astros and the Royals. I think I get maybe they're hanging fruit, but they played, for anybody that didn't see, they played their final game of a series between them yesterday. And so the Royals extended their winning streak to 7 in a row because they scored 9 runs in the first inning off of Hunter Brown. And Hunter Brown is one of those guys that people thought was trending towards being one of the better starters in the league. And for them to just totally blow him up was really impressive. So I'm kind of in the same boat where people just pencil in the Astros every year to make it deep into the postseason, but they need to actually get in the playoffs first. And that's kind of, and to me, even though it's early on, that's kind of a serious question, just looking at them objectively, where they still have star players, especially at the top of their lineup. But outside of that, it's a lot of question marks all the way up and down. Is there any other teams, Ryan, that jump out to you like that for better or for worse compared to what you thought of them entering the year?
Not really. I guess if I had to say something, it would be Tampa Bay. They're 7-6. I mean, it's very early, but just didn't know what to think of Tampa Bay overall. So I'm just gonna say I'll be watching them a lot because I feel like they're just due for regression. This model that they've been going with, that the Marlins are now trying to replicate, it's been working for so many years now, and I just feel like one year it'll break down and then it'll either barely sneak into the postseason and get the last wild card spot, or miss the postseason. And I feel like maybe it could be that it could be this year.
And anything else, Carver, that jumps out to you that we haven't already touched on this?
No, I think you guys got the main ones. I would say I didn't expect Baltimore to be this good. I thought they would be a little bit slightly worse, I would say, because of their pitching. I know they got Corbin Burns and everything like that, but Grayson Rodriguez wasn't good last year. Dean Kramer wasn't particularly good last year, and those guys are off to really good starts. And what Colton Cowser is doing is insane. The guy's hitting like 450. Plus, they just called up, what's his name, Holiday. So that team is super fun to watch. I didn't expect them to be at 8-4. I probably have put them a little bit worse than that. So I didn't expect them to be as good as they have been so far. But there's a lot of moving parts there, especially with such young players. It could go, I mean, even though they have very good prospects, it could go either way at any time. So, I hope that team continues to do well because I really like the Orioles and what they've done to build a team from within. Guys, I like stuff like that. So, the only other thing I would add is slightly surprising is the Orioles, just because they're kind of thin in pitching and they've been doing really, really well. So the Orioles would be my only other one, and I really like to watch that team. I think that they're cool.
Yeah. So now turning back to the Marlins, we're too early in the year to talk about the fire sale stuff that I know people have on their minds a little bit just because of how historically bad it is. But it is not too soon to at least think about what other things you can do internally to actually make this team better and like put together your best foot forward and adjustments that you can make on here. So just to refresh people, this is the current roster outlook that Marlins have situated right now, where it's been actually the same group of guys there for about a full week to this point. And it's just that every facet of the team is underperforming a little bit, right? Where it's one of the worst lineups in baseball, where it's one of the worst defenses in baseball, one of the worst starting rotations even to this point. And the bullpen has had kind of its weak up and down moments right here. But we'll get into a little bit more with Kevin in a bit in our press box report. But I kind of assumed that Edward Cabrera was about to be coming back to this group. I watched him on Wednesday make his most recent rehab start, and he looked pretty great. Against a AAA lineup, and a pretty bad one at that, but 1 walk in 5 2/3 innings, 9 strikeouts. His velo is all the way back, and instead he's going to get another rehab start to get going here. So it'll be a better conversation to dive into more, I guess, once he actually is rejoining the team in a week and a half. But I'm curious about like the confidence level that you guys might have in Edward at this point. I'll start with Ryan. Like, we haven't seen him pitch. He hasn't pitched in the big leagues since last year, but he had that really polarizing season in 2023 where you saw those flashes of him being who he should be, but it was just like so all of that was kind of besides the point because he couldn't throw strikes. So is he somebody that when he does get back, does he actually improve this rotation? And where do you think he like slides in to this group? Which spot do you think he might take?
Yeah, I think he does improve the rotation. Obviously, it all depends on if he can throw strikes. We know the stuff is there. His velocity is now back from his rehab starts. So for me, I fully trust him. I fully like him in this rotation. If he could even cut down the walk rate by a little bit, cut it in half like what Tanner Scott did, that's what I'm hoping for. And I've always been a big Edward Cabrera guy myself. The potential is massive. He could be like one of the better pitchers in MLB, maybe like even top 25 if he just puts it together with the command. That's why I was frustrated when I saw those rumors like 2 months ago when he was nearly traded to the Pirates, according to some reports. But as for where he slots in the rotation, I'd like to see the Marlins move Puck back to the bullpen and then slide Cabrera right in there because it would improve the middle relief a lot if you just give up on the Puck rotation experiment, and it would also help the bullpen, even though if both have had command issues at some point in their starting career since Puck. He had like 5 walks against the Yankees or something like that, and like 3-4 innings.
It's the 2023 Walk King versus the 2024 Walk King. Because right now, Puck is leading the majors in walks this point in the season. And I was about as high on anybody as the idea of Puck turning into a starter based on what he showed in spring training. He said he was going to add a couple pitches to his mix, and he did. He added a cutter. He refined his splitter. It looked so good, just based on what we could tell. He was getting stretched out and he was looking healthy entering the season. And I'll almost do him a favor and throw out his very first start of the season for people that don't remember. That was when he only worked 2+ innings. He walked 6 guys, and it was very clear that he was sweating all over the place. It was clear that like he said afterwards that he couldn't grip the ball the way he wanted to. There was something in that very first start, his worst start, where I think it might be reasonable to say that was some conditions that you could just give him a mulligan and like pretend that didn't happen. But even in the 2 starts since then, you point out like the issue is it's still the same control problem. Even if the stuff looks a little bit better, and even if he goes a little bit deeper into the game against the Yankees, he worked into the 5th inning, didn't get through the 5th inning, but he stretched out at least to 95 pitches. The velo is still down a lot more than I thought it would be, where it's a lot of 91 and 92. Instead of 94 and 95, and where there are a lot of non-competitive misses too with all his pitches. Like it's a thing to be careful with who you're facing and throw borderline pitches and nibble too much. But the issue with him is you just see it in spurts where he's not coming anywhere close to doing what he wants to do with the ball, where it's clear that he just needs to totally refresh things. And whether that means getting sent to the bullpen, which I think makes the most sense, or even get sent to AAA for a period of time in order to make starts in a lower stress environment. Like he's just not helping the team very much right now on that. Even though I kind of like you don't have like total confidence in Edward. At least it's something has to change with what Puck is doing right now because he's just not himself at the moment here. But yeah, I guess I want to hear more about Otto Lopez as well. get into some Otto Lopez stuff. Because on the hitting side, I think a lot of us were surprised by the decision to designate Jacob Amaya for assignment. And indirectly, they basically replaced him with this guy, Otto Lopez, who they claimed off waivers from the Giants just a week ago. And he's the one in here with the video game numbers at AAA Jacksonville. He's hitting 600 in 5 games since coming over. He is slugging 1,000. He had 2 home runs last year, all year at AAA, and he has 2 home runs this week at AAA. And they're not even cheap shots either. They're 400 plus feet. He's crushing it. The exit velo that he's putting up is really impressive. He's only struck out 1 time in those 5 games. Alex Carver, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, we probably didn't know a whole lot about Otto Lopez before he came over. What have we learned so far about what he brings to the table?
That he can play all over the place and hit in a hitter-friendly environment. It's kind of what I see, honestly. Plays a lot of positions. Obviously signed as depth just to come in here and show what he can do. They put him on the 40-man roster. Okay. So maybe they'll expect this guy to contribute at some point, which cool. You can get a guy off the street to come in and contribute right away. That's pretty cool. And he's playing like he deserves an opportunity so far if one becomes available. So cool. Yeah, it's 5 games, so I'm not putting the world into it. This is a guy who's been around for a bit. He's been around since 2017. He's played at AAA before now, so it's not a level that's completely new to him. Still 25, so maybe there's something that the Marlins found here that none of us thought that they would. That's great. So, yeah, 5'10", 185, and he's hitting 2 home runs. So I don't know, 2 home runs in 5 games. So I don't know exactly how that massive OPS that you called out, Eli, will translate to A, the major league level, and then B, more pitcher-friendly environments or less hitter-friendly environments. But we'll see as AAA season goes along. He's on the 40-man, so maybe they'll give him a shot sometime. That'll be cool. And to get something out of nowhere, that's a good job by Peter Bendix, I guess, to find a guy like this out of nowhere. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So he has been playing mainly shortstop since he's been down there since coming over. I've seen some looks at him there. You know, it's not pretty. It's not terrible either. Just one kind of egregious error so far in a small sample that we've seen down there. A downgrade defensively from Amaya for sure. It's just you'll live with that if he's actually something close to a decent hitter that we have so far. And there he is from the side for people that haven't seen him already. A right-handed hitter, and one of his home runs, a no-doubter down the left field line. And then last night he hit one to dead center field in Jacksonville, which is not easy to homer out of, given the dimensions of that ballpark down there. But a lot of it is connected to, not a lot of it. It's kind of I would say that basically the bar for him to clear is not very high, because it's basically, is he an improvement over Vidal Brujan? That is probably, that's the weakest link. I guess that's the most vulnerable player on this roster. And even though the Marlins gave up something to get him, they made a trade with the Rays and they sent a couple prospects over there to get Brujan. Like, it's been so ugly, at least offensively, ever since spring. And he, as if we're speaking right now, Brujan is still hitless on the entire season. But Nick, how long do you think until this has to be like a serious conversation between mixing up this hitting group and especially like at that utility role? They traded John Birdie kind of at the last minute, and they're missing him quite a bit with having Brujan playing, with having a little bit of Jonah Bride. Like this is kind of something that eventually you got to make some sort of effort to like promote guys that are performing, right?
Yeah, I agree totally. Because I mean, if a guy is hitting 600 in AAA, obviously it's not going to translate to the MLB that good of a level. But with Brujan exactly not having a single hit on the season, I think that really is something you do have to question. Of, you know, he's probably not going to go out there and hit 300. Brujan, you know, his potential isn't super high, as he's kind of one of those contact speed guys. He's not super power hitter, so your expectations for him aren't crazy high, and he's still relatively young at 26. And with this Otto Lopez guy, he's pretty young too with that. So it's one of those weighing your options. Who do you think has more potential? Who do you feel? Because they both can play multiple positions. They both can play different spots in the lineup. They can both go in the outfield and play the infield. So it's really a question of who have you seen more from that you think would do better in the big leagues? And I think if Lopez is performing in AAA, I think at a certain point you just have to give him a shot, because honestly, with the season, if it keeps going like this, you can't make it any worse.
Right. As we prepare to bring in Kevin here and go into our break, what we do right before that, as usual, is Flipped Fish, former player that used to be on the Marlins and used to be on the opposing team as well. Give you like 45 seconds to guess who it might be based on some of the hints that we show on the screen right here. And I think this one is a relatively easy one because I wasn't sure if anybody would be on here aside from Ryan. So I wanted to put it in range where at least he would have a decent shot at it. It's a recently retired player that we have here. A right-handed pitcher, 40 years old right now. His last game was at the end of the 2022 season from Venezuela. And he had, as you can see, a very productive career overall. 28 WAR, about a 4 ERA, over 2,000 innings right here. So take a moment, try to guess who might be, former Marlin and former Brave. And we will go to break and come back on the other side with the big reveal of what it is, with the press box report, with a preview of this upcoming series and much more. So stick around with us.
We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
All right, you got to get this one, Ryan.
Yeah. Any guesses from the panel?
I'm having a hard time.
What? I know it, so I won't say it. Nick, go ahead.
Was
Come
he
on, really? He threw. Oh, man.
Was he on the Marlins in 2019 or later? Because I didn't start watching the Marlins until
No, this guy, he was a Marlin first, and he spent a lot more time with the Marlins. He was with the Braves, not kind of towards the end, but much more known as a Marlin than a Brave.
Oh, well, I know it. I don't know if you want me to say it, but I know it.
It is
Anibal Sanchez. Yeah, it has to be Anibal Sanchez. Yeah.
I didn't even know he played for the Braves. I only know him as like a Marlin and National.
Yeah, it was just 1 year with the Braves. Right before he joined the Nationals, he had one good season when it kind of revived his career too, where he was kind of going off the rails a little bit when at the end of his Tigers years. He had one good year with the Braves, and then he stuck around for quite a bit longer, won a World Series with the Nats and all that stuff. Yeah, not the easiest one right there, but I thought it just came to mind because even me myself, I hadn't had like a clear memory of him as a Brave because it was 1 year. Best known for the Marlins for throwing a no-hitter, though, one of the 6 no-hitters in franchise history. As we will now bring in from Lone Depot Park, started this homestand in the series against the Braves. We have Kevin Barral. He's there. Alex Krutchik is there with him for this one as well. There he is for the start of this 3-game series. It's the first divisional matchup the Marlins have had this year. And how's everything looking from your perspective, Kevin, as the division leading Braves come to town?
They know the Braves are in town. Skip said they need to win. They need to find whatever way they can to win, especially these type of games. I mean, the Braves are a damn good team. You can make the case to some extent they're better than the Dodgers. It doesn't look like a division game right now with the amount of people in the stands, but hopefully later it does. A lot of people were down on the field. A lot of media is here today. It was a pretty packed out clubhouse. But yes, Skip knows what's coming up for him today. He jokingly said thankfully they got Max Fried today after what happened with the rain delay there, or the postponed game against them in the Mets. I think it was in Queens. So interesting case there. Now they get Max Fried. They have Chris Sale in that middle game, and finally Charlie Morton. So, but the good thing is the Marlins did beat the Braves last year here in Miami. So I know it's September baseball, but still, I mean, you take 2 out of 3 against the Braves, it's always a big win.
Yeah, not a Braves team that's at full strength right now. They're missing Sean Murphy. He's on the IL. He'll be out for this entire series. I want to take a second just to queue up this email that was making the rounds. I got 4 copies of this one from the Marlins marketing team. Let's give Atlanta a baseball welcome. And what do you think of this? I don't think we talked about this much as a staff, either publicly or privately. Already marketing a couple opposing players in an email that goes out to Marlins fans.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Matt Olson isn't Cuban last time I remember, so that's definitely an issue to start with. Probably could have used Jake Berger and Josh Bell, probably. Yeah, definitely an interesting choice, but I guess Ronald Acuna is a moneymaker. That's the only one you can mention there. That probably should have been on there. And it's a little weird that you're giving them I know what they're trying to mean by baseball welcome, but it's not very smart, in my opinion. But they know what they're doing, I hope. So, yeah, we'll keep it at that.
I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't know what they're doing.
I don't know.
What anything else, Carver, on that? That's top of your minds about this?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, they've done this before too, where they give the sense that they're trying to get other teams' fans to come to the park because they can't get their own fans to come to the park. It's exactly what this seems like. They did this last year as well, I think, with the Braves. They did the same thing. So I know that you have to try to sell tickets wherever you can, but and like Kevin said, this is kind of like you kind of get it because of the home of baseball and all that. Come on, like Kevin said, nobody in this picture is Cuban. That's number one. Nobody in this picture is Puerto Rican. That's number two. Like, I get that it's the melting pot of baseball and all that other stuff, but the Marlins also play in the United States. So where's the United States flag in this? I think Isaac said that, and it's absolutely true. And then they kind of try to encourage people with the instrument thing as well. That, as many people as that brings in, it's also going to drive that many people away. The people that are longtime fans of baseball that want to go to a traditional baseball game can't go to one in Miami. So the fact that they continue to make that like a focus of marketing is also a mistake to me. So yeah, this whole graphic is a bit of a disaster. I don't really understand what they're trying to do, but yeah, like Kevin said, I think the crowd will speak for itself when it's all said and done.
We're going to hear the tomahawk chalk real soon here.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple giveaways this weekend. I know they're doing the reversible bucket hat on Sunday. That was popular when they've done it before. And tomorrow, there's something else tomorrow that is off the top of my head.
Today, I think it's the magnet schedule thing.
Right.
Another one again.
That's usually an opening day concept, so I don't know why they're waiting 2 weeks.
They did it on opening day.
They did it already.
Yeah, and they're doing it again. So it's a different magnet, though. So if you want, I guess, a different one, come out to the ballpark and watch the Braves.
Let's get into your injury updates before getting out of here. We touched previously on Edward and the fact that he's getting one more rehab start, even though he's already stretched out for 5 2/3, which is longer than most of these other starters give. Then there's Chagua and Edwards and Braxton. So just take us through anything else on here that stuck out to you.
Yeah, well, Yuri Perez is here today. He's back from Tommy John. He's a whole cast on, barely moving the arm. Says he feels good. We spoke to him a little bit. Says it's really hard to sleep. That's been the toughest part for him. Obviously, it makes sense. But, yeah, he's here. He said he wanted to bring, he wanted to hype up his teammates a little bit, bring them some happiness, and that's why he's here. You mentioned the Edward thing, Cabrera. I think it's more just to give him some consistency because if we remember, those first 2 starts were not very good whatsoever. A lot of walks. So I think it's just more to give him some time and consistency. It's either to do this for back-to-back starts because, as you mentioned, Eli, on Twitter, that was a phenomenal start by Edward last time in AAA Jacksonville. Aside from that, the Chagua bullpen, we're not sure if it was today or yesterday. So I guess we'll get that soon. But either way, he threw one. And the Xavier Edwards thing looks a little more serious than what it used to be, I guess. I know he had an issue throughout most of the spring. He was out. So, yeah, aside from that, Bryce, as we all know, pitching today. And then Josh Simpson at some point will pitch in Jupiter. So, guys progressing well. I don't think I left anything out. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, what we've been hearing for a couple weeks now.
I just noticed what you put up here about Acuna and his video game numbers against the Marlins all time. even against at Lone Depot as well. He's off to a kind of slow start by his standards, especially by last year. So maybe this is just what he needs to get back to being the MVP version of himself.
Kind of why I tweeted it. I was talking to Alex Krutchik, and he was telling me the thing is off to kind of a slow start. And I was like, no, he's really good against the Marlins. So let's take a look at these stats. And the guy just speaks for itself. MVP. He had a 40-70 season. He's a stud. There's no other way to say it. He was here today. I know he's dealing with some stuff right now in terms of his agency. I know according to someone, he had switched to Remas, which just got the 5-year ban. So we'll see. He's kind of a free agent right now in his agency. So search. So yeah, the guy's a stud. Everyone's here. You mentioned Sean Murphy. He's here in Miami actually working out. Did some throwing drills today. So he should be back soon for the Braves, for those Braves fans that are possibly watching this.
Yeah. So thanks for that. Kevin there today. He'll be back on Sunday as well. We'll send you on your way so that you can cover this series as completely as possible. So follow him, follow Alex Krutchik in the ballpark, and thanks a lot, Kevin.
Make Otto Lopez a big leaguer. Alrighty, guys. Speaking of which, I think it's interesting that he brings up Xavier Edwards. Eli, when he is back, it's going to be interesting to see what Jacksonville does. Because they apparently have this guy, Otto Lopez. He can play other positions, but like you said, they've been putting him at shortstop. They have Jonah Bride at third base. So what do you do with Xavier Edwards? Like the outfield's pretty full as well with Victor Mesa, and other Dane Myers and other guys that they have. So where the heck do you put Xavier Edwards? I think they're probably going to have to send somebody back to AA, but I don't know. We'll see. Just something else to call out that I think is interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's a problem they have while everybody on the big league roster is healthy on the hitting side outside of Edwards. Like maybe they get, whenever he's ready a week or two from now, maybe somebody on the big league roster is on the IL and then somebody goes up. So whether it's Edwards or maybe the Otto gets his shot if he's still hitting 600 or something like that. So I think that's part of it as well, where on the hitting side outside of Edwards, basically everybody has been healthy, even if they're not doing well, even if you'd rather see somebody else in there. We'll take a quick look at the lineups for this series opener between the Braves and the Marlins right here. I don't think we mentioned this, but Tim Anderson is out with like a minor illness, they said, like something this morning that popped up. So that's why for the first time this season, he's not in there. Instead, it's Vidal Brujan out shortstop. But starting on the Marlins side, Ryan, is there anything that sticks out from you in terms of this batting order, or as this is the StatCast lineups that we have? So either the order that they're in or somebody performing in a way so far this season that jumps out to you.
Yeah. In terms of the order, I would say stop hitting Jazz in the 5 spot. De La Cruz is less of a cleanup hitter than Jazz is. And even if you're facing a lefty, which the Marlins have faced a ton of lefties this year, I don't think the lineup against lefties should be this different compared to the righty lineup. I'd like Jazz to be in the cleanup spot for pretty much every game. And most importantly, I'd like them to stop starting Avi against every single left-handed pitcher and just give Jesus Sanchez, this isn't even a direct shot at Avi, but just give Jesus Sanchez a chance to hit more left-handed pitching, because I think he had one nice double or really hard hit single earlier in the year against the lefty. But Skip, with that really strict platoon, I don't think you started him once, if I'm not wrong. I think you tweeted that, Eli. He hasn't started him once against a left-handed pitcher yet this year.
It has been, even compared to what Skip has done previously, like it has been every single lefty Avi is starting and every single righty Sanchez is starting. But what makes it kind of irritating, you could say, to this point is because they faced a lot of lefties so far. They faced more left-handed pitchers than righties, which is not going to be the case as the season goes on. That's just the way that it has unfolded so far, that it has been to this point a pretty even split that actually gives him more playing time to Avi, even though he is, I think even the team recognizes that he's the weaker link of that pair. But they've been so strict about it. And it has, it's gone tonight against Max Fried. It has Avi in for the series opener right here. Yeah, for me, like Brian De La Cruz is now, I'll throw this up here, that he's now one of the 4 Marlins that has started every single game to this point. Now with Tim Anderson being out there It's a rise. It's been Josh Bell, Jake Berger, and Dela Cruz every single game he's starting. He played almost every day last year, and he had a lot of success during that first half of the season. But it's like the team itself has totally brushed off the way that he slipped as the year went on offensively, and the way that he continued to struggle so much defensively as a base runner. And yet he has started every single game, almost all of them in left field at this point in the season. And he's not performing either. Like, you could look at this, his average exit velo, which was pretty good last year, is down to 85, well below average. He's hitting into a little bit of bad luck, but he's only thrown one walk the entire season to this point. It's only one walk, and there's not a lot of home run power. There's doubles power, but not over the fence power. And when you combine that with the limitations he still has as a base runner, and with the obvious issues he has defensively, which have already hurt the team so far, it's not the craziest thing in the world that they could potentially start Sanchez in place of him, even when it's against a lefty in some cases, or more importantly, that find a way to get Nick Gordon and Sanchez in there instead of DLC and Avi on certain occasions. It's been just lack of imagination because of it. Anything to you, Nick, about this lineup that you find notable?
Yeah, I think it is. I'm on kind of the same page with you guys with De La Cruz of how high he is in the lineup, especially just batting cleanup. And also, like we were saying, only one walk. He's got 15 strikeouts. That's second in the team. Tim Anderson is the only guy with more. So he's striking out a ton, never walking, which is not good plate discipline while you're standing up there. So that just, and yeah, his defense doesn't make up for it at all. So I think putting Sanchez in there necessarily either for him, but also just getting Jesus more at bats against lefties is also beneficial because he's still a relatively young player. That he's 26. You're still trying to get him at bats and still trying to make him a better player overall for even the future. So I think him just strictly going against right-handed pitching is a detriment to him in the long run in general. So I think that's really what sticks out. I don't think anything else is too surprising. I mean, I like how they've kept the top of the order. Josh Bell, I'm excited to see today. He's batting, I think, 417 or something against Max Fried. So hopefully he does good, keeps that up today against him. He's got 7 hits off him in 17 at bats. So hopefully Josh Bell has a good game. But yeah.
I'm cracking up at the expected stats for Vidal Brujan. His actual stats are awful because he hasn't gotten a single hit. He's only walked once. But even the expected numbers, it's an 0.96 expected batting average, a 122 expected slugging percentage. He struggled a lot in his first few years in the big leagues, but it just speaks to kind of how far away he seems to be from being a productive member of this team. So we touched on it before with him being, you would think, the first guy to go if they look to call somebody up from AAA. And the only reason why there's any hesitation is because he's out of options. He can't be sent down. So they are either accepting it's a sunk cost, having to run him through waivers. The key point there is even when you DFA a guy, you're not going to lose them if they're struggling so much. So I think we've reached a point, or we will soon, where you can have some confidence DFAing him and believe that he'll clear waivers and stay in the organization and go down to AAA. I think that is probably the calculus that the front office is making. It's how much does he have to struggle in order for his value to totally go away, in order for him to be somebody that we can hold on to and try to recuperate in the minors. So I think eventually they're going to reach that point right there, but they are apparently not there yet. Now, flopping over to the Braves side right here, Sean Murphy not there, but most of the other regulars are, as usual. These guys play almost every single day, even when they are just played the day before in New York. Adam Duvall signed with the Braves at the last minute for his 3rd tour of duty with the team. They love him over there, so he's in the lineup against a lot of lefties at this stage of the season, but otherwise a lot of their other main guys in there. What sticks out to me on this is Marcelo Zuna and how hot he continues to be. Like, it looked like his career might be plateauing a couple years ago, in that he would go into his decline phase as somebody that's now pretty deep into his 30s. And instead, he was the most quiet 40 home run hitter in baseball last year. And now he's kind of on a similar pace again, where even the like underlying stuff are crazy. Like he's to this point in the season as hot and as dangerous as any other hitter in their lineup. But anything else to you, Carver, about the Braves that I think is worth noting?
It's just such a good mix of older guys and younger guys. Just they do it so right by finding that balance between veterans who can still contribute, like Ozuna and Duvall, and then you mix in guys like Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies. Like, it's just a team that does it correctly. They do it right. These guys are out there every single day for a reason, whether it's lefties or righties or whatever it may be. It's basically the same guys every single day because they deserve it and they can do it against both sides. So it's just a team that does things correctly at the major league level. The minor league level, they're a little more. I think they're a little bit more of a thinner system at the minor league level, but they don't really need it because look at what they do year after year at the major league level, and they have a GM that's gonna buy into that every step of the way. So this team does it correctly. They do it right. They're at the top of the division every year for a reason. They know how to develop prospects that you see on this team, like Riley and Albies and Acuna, and then they know how to get the most as possible out of veterans and Michael Harris, by the way, also a great player, and then to get even more and revive the careers of veterans, like you just said with Ozuna, Duvall. They do it correctly, and guys like playing there for a reason. Always a scary team, always a scary matchup, and I fear for the Marlins in this series. And again, I don't think we've mentioned this, Eli, but starting out a stretch of 13 games in 13 days, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, this is going to be a long stretch, I think, for the Marlins, playing some good teams, and you're starting it off with the Braves. It's scary, man. And then you look at the other side. We were just talking about it. I get what they're trying to do with Jazz. Ryan, I understand it because you want to try, even though it's lefty, you want to try to get somebody on base at the back half of the lineup, but then look at what you're doing with 6 through 9. It's porous. I mean, Avi Garcia, you talked about him. Emmanuel Rivera, they pulled him off the street. I don't know yet. Fortes back to not hitting, which he did in his minor league career until he finally figured it out. Now it's gone away again. And then Brujan's been the worst player on the team. So, yeah, it's an unserious lineup for an unserious team. I get what they're trying to do with Chisholm, to try to get somebody on base, to try to get one of your best offensive players on base in terms of total tools. But when you have those guys hitting behind him, he's pretty much going to have to create runs by himself most of the time. So unless something miraculous happens. So a tough look, a tough lineup, an unserious lineup for an unserious team against a very serious team that is good year after year. You can see the differences here, just monumental, not only in the colors, but just in the names. You could see the monumental differences between a serious team and an unserious team.
On the pitching side, just to get everybody up to speed on that, tonight, Trevor Rogers versus Max Fried. Then it's Max Meyer versus Chris Sale and Luzardo versus Charlie Morton right there. In his last start, Ryan, I think Max had as good a start as any Marlins pitcher has had this year. The first win that they had against the Cardinals, he went 6 innings. For the guy that at the end of camp, like he was supposed to be the odd man out of this battle. He was supposed to go to the minors, and then that spot opened up at the last minute for him to join here. So now it's a bigger challenge for him coming up in the second game of this series. Where are you on Max, and like how much confidence you have of him actually like sticking in this rotation, even when some of the veterans come back from the IL?
Yeah, I'm huge on Max personally. I was frustrated when they sent him down, and I'm glad that he gets this opportunity due to injuries. And overall, I think Meyer proved on Sunday against a not star-studded Cardinals lineup, but still a good lineup with Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Jordan Walker, Gavin Gorman, all those guys in there. I mean, Nolan Gorman. And 6 innings of 3-hit ball, had a perfect game going, and could have had it going even deeper if the ball did not fall out of Jazz's glove, nearly a sick home run robbery. Only 3 Ks has been the thing that stood out. Only, I think, 7 Ks in 11 innings for Meyer this season. But even though his strikeout rate has been a lot different from his numbers in the minors, he's been able to get a ton of weak contact, ground ball outs. He's been really impressive, and I think he could even get some Rookie of the Year votes possibly if he keeps this up.
He is eligible, despite already pitching in the majors 2 years ago, yet because of his lack of reps before getting hurt. Really quickly, I'm trying to pull up Chris Sale's history to find the last time that he faced the Marlins, because Sale's been around for so long, and he's been such a big name for so long, but he's been in the American League for his entire career until this year. He has not faced the Marlins since 2018. This is going to be the first time in 6 years that the Marlins face Chris Sale. Last time that he faced them, I imagine that was a Lewis Brinson lineup, a Brian Anderson lineup, people like that. So that's another thing that I'll be curious to see, where he's at a very different stage of his career now than he was back in 2018, right there. So with that, I think we're going to go into prediction time. Is the video? Where's the video that I want? I can't even find. I think I might have deleted the video that I wanted. I'm just going to play the audio for it, if I can even find that in here. I may have deleted that too. we're just going to go then to we'll just, without a transition, just the graphic first, pull up our super sub predictions, or the leaderboard, if I can find that leaderboard. Let's just go with who we have for our super subs to this point, entering either on our site or in our Discord channel, predicting how many games the Marlins are going to win in this series and who's going to win MVP as determined by win probability added. So far, slight majority going with the Braves, but some still irrationally holding out for this Marlins team so far, to this point where they've lost every single series they've played. In case you have not noticed, they've lost all 4 so far. But whether it's win or lose, if you are a super sub, you get a chance to earn points for your predictions, compete for a big prize at the end of the season if you get the most points there. So that's what we have so far from them. And we have a couple of videos to go to as well, as submitted first from Kevin and Alex K on location at Lone Depot Park.
Alrighty, Marlins Braves series predictions. I'm going to go with the Marlins taking 2 out of 3, but I'm going to go with Ronald Acuna as my series MVP.
I'm going to go with Marlins 2 out of 3. I'm going to go with Luis Ariz.
Alrighty, Eli, back to you.
Wow.
We have more videos on the way right here from our various locations. Our usual host, Daniel Rodriguez, and his dog, Amigo. Here's what the two of them have to say.
All right. Thank you, Eli. I'm here with Amigo Rodriguez. Big fan of the Marlins. Big fan on Fish on First. My prediction for the series, I have the Braves taking 2 out of 3. Matt Olson will be my series MVP. He will have 2 home runs this series. And for you, Amigo? Okay. Yeah. So, Amigo, he's going to go with the Marlins. He thinks the Marlins are going to take 2 out of 3, and his MVP is going to be, Jake Berger. Jake Berger. He wants Jake Berger because he likes treats. And he wants to go down, but that's going to be mine. And Amigo Rodriguez's prediction. Back to you, Eli.
One more for you from across the ponds in Spain. Isaac and Bella Pickman. Here are their picks.
Live from Madrid, Spain, with some Marlins Braves predictions. I got the Marlins winning 2 out of 3, upsetting the cold Braves, and Matt Olson, unfortunately, will be the MVP. Bella?
I say Marlins win 2, and MVP is Chris Sale.
All right, she got the lefty. Back to you, Eli.
As Ryan has clarified in our chat about the last time that Chris Sale faced the Marlins, that was a pretty typical 2018 Marlins team. Cameron Maben in there, Chad Wallach. Haven't thought about Chad Wallach in a while. And also Jose Urena, who I just noticed yesterday is quietly having a dominant start to the season with the Rangers. Urena is still alive and still active, despite what a lot of you may have assumed right there. So it's good to see him find like a second act or a third act or a fourth act to his career when people thought he was already gone. But now people want to hear from us what we have to say about this. You guys know how this goes. As soon as I get the right background on here. Perfect. We're going to start with Nick right here.
Gosh,
Sir.
I want to be optimistic and pick the Marlins, but I can't. I'm going Braves 2 out of 3, and Matt Olson's going to hit 2 home runs this series.
Alex Carver, your predictions.
I'm going totally opposite direction of some of you guys and saying that the Braves sweep the series I have little confidence in these starting pitchers. Max Meyer, it could go away at any time. I hope it doesn't, but it could, especially when he doesn't really have the changeup all the way yet still. So I'll say Braves sweep, and I'll go with the popular pick and go Matt Olson in that regard, but the Braves will sweep this series.
Ryan, you were perfect last time in your predictions. Can you keep it up right here? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm also going in the complete opposite direction of some of the Fish on First staffers. I'm going to say that the Braves sweep. Not going to overthink this one. And I'm going with the Marlin killer himself. He gets his season going. He gets out of that little slump that he was having for Acuna standards. I'm going with Ronald Acuna Jr.
Someday the sun will rise. The Marlins will win a series. They play 50-something of these series. They're going to beat teams. They're going to beat good teams at some point, and they're going to win a home game eventually. I think they're going to win one home game in this series. They get one on the board, but I do have the Braves taking 2 out of 3 in the series. I have Marcell Ozuna winning series MVP. I don't know how he's still doing it at this high level, but he has been. He's going to continue doing it for another weekend. Marlins dropped to 3-13 overall by the end of this.
I like it. I like the confidence, Eli.
I always exude confidence on these predictions, even when the scoreboard shows that I don't know what I'm talking about right here. So yeah, there's a lot of Brave sweeps in here, or Marlins winning 2 out of 3. People have kind of fluctuated to those 2 scenarios right there. TP with the Marlins winning 2 out of 3. Which Garcia? Avi Garcia winning MVP? That would be quite a miracle right there. From Nick and Ryan, Alex Carver, I am Eli Sussman. Fish on First Live right here. Appreciate everybody joining us. Come back for the start of every single series throughout this year. We do these preview shows breaking down how the team is doing, and we have a lot of fun doing it as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again on Monday is the next show. A whole lot of coverage between now and then on Fish on First, particularly our website, fishonfirst.com. Go ahead and check it out. And as always, go fish.